And welcome back to Pleb Underground. I'm SuperTestNet, doing my latest in my series of reverse interviews where I interview famous Bitcoin podcasters on their own shows.
I didn't expect
Here today,
this.
I'm with Phil and Ulrich, and I just wanted to ask you guys, what's it like being the best Bitcoin podcast in the universe?
I'm going to let Ulrich start with this one while I just gather my thoughts.
I like to look pretty and smile.
I really enjoy asking questions that I don't know the answers to and then being educated about those questions.
You know, my favorite thing about Pleb Underground was you used to do these things called the Lightning Roundtable.
It's going to shame me. I knew it.
I learned so much about the Lightning Network from you guys. What's your favorite fact that you've learned from the Lightning Roundtables?
I've learned that this is a never-ending train of shame that I am on, and that SuperTestNet will not let me live this down. Actually, I remember this from BTC++ because when we first met, that was one of the things that you had brought up. But in all seriousness, the thing that I loved the most was what did it for me was being able to see all of these different developers, right, working together, and every single one of them kind of like in this silo, right? Like you had one guy, I think his name was Frankie on Twitter. I haven't seen him in years. All he focused on was the LCD screen, right? What you would see on the display. This was his thing. Right?
Yeah, I remember that.
And it's just like, it's just very cool. So you'd see these guys working in these silos, and then they would get all together on the Lightning Roundtables and start to talk about what they were working on. And all of a sudden you'd start to see the sparks fly, where it's like, I'm in the middle of talking about this one idea, and then somebody else would be like, you know what? I'm working on this piece, but what you're doing sounds really interesting. And then they would start to contribute to it.
So if you're interested in seeing the new round of art roundtables, leave a comment below, like and subscribe, and make sure that you give awareness that this is in demand. And
I'm going to do it.
We want to have all the art devs getting on and talking to each other about what's new in Artland.
Beautiful intro. I mean, his intro
is better than mine.
Yeah.
Not going to lie. Not going to lie.
I'm not going to lie.
Why don't you do your intro, Phil?
Well, my intro now is going to sound like a bag of D. So I'm not even, bag of dicks. So I'm not even gonna go there, because my intro was more like, hey, welcome back to Pleb Underground. We are live at Tabconf, and joining us is SuperTestNet.
Phil has a great intro. That's why I'm here with the Pleb Underground.
It's the pause. It's the pause, right? Before I announce the guest that really gets people going. They're like, who is that masked man? Yeah, well, he's not wearing a mask, but you get the idea.
Shinobi was, though.
Shinobi, yeah, exactly. Good point. Thank you for saving me on that one. But yes, I do. After you spoke to me yesterday about the ARC roundtable, I definitely am like, yeah, he's probably right. That would be freaking amazing. And not only that, but I also it also helps for me, anyways, expose my ignorance of ARC, because I really don't know much and I want to know more. And when I see tweets from Francis where he's doing amazing things with his with his beta wallet and stuff like that, or alpha wallet at this point. Yeah, I'm definitely feeling the FOMO to learn more. So I am going to work on it. I'm going to try to get a roundtable together with all the ARC guys.
Throw in the ARC guys, throw in some BitVM people, and you got yourself a real firehouse.
You just
Firehouse a thing? Yeah,
I mean, it could be. Yeah. I
Firehouse
think
subs is a thing, so Firehouse
subs is pretty good. Do you like Firehouse subs?
I don't think so. I don't go.
Have you ever had them?
I think I have.
They're steamed. They steam the meats. This has nothing to do with Bitcoin, but it doesn't matter. That's not the point. It steams the meats.
Bitcoin's, there's a lot of carnivores in the Bitcoin space. They'd be into Firehouse subs.
Okay, we are getting questions, though, about Ulrich's overalls. So before we dive into some real technical stuff with SuperTestNet, Ulrich's alls.
It's late in the day.
BTC Pins is asking, are those Oshkosh Bagosh?
That's what I used to wear when I was 2 years old. No, this is just American Levi's, if they even still make things in America, but I figured it was time to bring back the overalls because all the Gen Zers were wearing stuff cool, and I want to stay young. Sorry, BTC Pins.
I'm a fan. I did try overalls several times growing up, and I realized very quickly that I am not that dude. No, seriously, there's some dudes, right? They can wear overalls, and everyone's like, man, that guy looks good. I am not that guy.
I've gotten a few compliments today, so that's good.
Are you an overalls guy, SuperTestNet?
I'm gonna wear them. I think last time was when I was a kid.
Oh, okay, yeah. So you're also not an overalls
probably
guy.
Wearing Oshkosh Bagosh as well.
Probably.
Okay. In all seriousness, though, tell us everything you're doing in 30 seconds.
Over the last 5 days, I think I've had 6 new ideas.
That makes sense.
Brilliant.
Yeah. So I was telling someone about one of my ideas recently, which was I think I came up with a way to speed up initial block download on Bitcoin Core. And so I was describing this idea to this person. They were like, "Why isn't this your topic for
Yeah.
Bitcoin for Tabconf?" And I said, "Because I thought of this 3 days ago, and I had to submit my idea for Tabconf 12 days ago." The ideas come to me too often.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, I'm always having to abandon my ideas in pursuit of another ones. I've been thinking about I've been thinking about prediction markets. I've been thinking about blinded or confidential transactions. That's another thing I've been working on lately. It's speeding up IBD, eliminating the UTXO set, and a fully validating block explorer. Those are the 5 ideas I've had in the last 5 days.
As you're explaining this, I'm realizing like you're very well spoken and you're very articulate, and I'm just wondering, like most coders that I've met are not articulate and very well spoken. I feel like SuperTestNet's a unicorn. How come you're a unicorn?
I did a lot of public speaking when I was growing up. So
Yeah,
that helps.
So when did you get interested in coding?
I started building websites for people before I was in high school. And I think that's kind of where it started. I remember going to I did it for my church. I was helping in my church build this website, and one of the people there was a professional. One of the parishioners was like a professional web developer. So I went to his house. I was like 10 years old, and I was like, "How do I do it? What do I do?" And he was like, he told me a tool to use that was like a WYSIWYG thing that would help you build the website by dragging and dropping. And then he was like, whenever you build a website, whenever you use this tool, there's a little button that says HTML. Just occasionally click that and view the HTML. You're not going to understand what it says, but just look at it.
Yeah.
Sit there and see what it does. So I did, and it started making me. Eventually, I started wondering what happens if I change that directly. So I started doing that and taught myself HTML just by looking at the HTML and Googling things I didn't know about, seeing what it does.
So self-taught.
Yeah,
more or less.
Ever since before high school. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I'm very surprised because so you had no interest in going into something a little bit more less technical and more working with people.
I did, but I don't want to talk about that.
Okay, fine, fair enough. No, fair enough. I'm not going to push that.
I do want interesting that you said about the things that you've been working on, eliminating the UTXO sets. Can you expound on that a little bit?
Yeah, I've been playing around with the Floresta wallet recently. Some of the guys are here at Tabconf. They're presenting some of their work. The Floresta people and the UTXO people have managed to create an implementation of Bitcoin that doesn't have a UTXO set. Instead, it uses something called a UTXO accumulator, which is a hash or a set of hashes from which you can recover UTXO data and do it on the fly, do it computationally. So it sacrifices, you get rid of a storage requirement, but you increase your computation requirements and you increase your bandwidth. So I've been thinking about that and coming up with other ways to do similar things, and came up with a very terrible and much worse idea that allows you to get rid of the accumulator as well and not have that either.
So when you're coming up with these ideas, do you often go and try to think of how they break? How when people are do you do that? Or do you just kind of go through and be like, how do I make this work?
Well, I don't trying to figure out between those two things, because you try and think of a way to make. Do you think of something that you'd like to see? Or I think of something that I would like to see happen, and initially I start thinking along the lines of what steps can I take to get there, and I go down false paths and I go down things that don't work. So you think of the ways to break the thing you're trying to do long before you think of, or at least for me, I think of ways to break it long before I think of a way to do it.
I like that.
And then eventually I come up with something that doesn't break.
That's right.
and that's the one I go for and say, I will build that and present it at things like this.
You're definitely a QA manager's dream. I can tell you that. I worked in quality assurance, and they do not get enough people that think like that.
Oh.
That is absolutely amazing. Okay. Switch. We're gonna, unless you have something you want to ask him along these lines.
Just based on what you said, it's the reason why QA is there in the first place, and a lot of some software leaders are trying to do away with the QA discipline in and of itself. And when they have coders or developers like what SuperTestNet described, they could. However, people have their incentives, people have their highest priorities, and you kind of have to pay for that in a whole another FTE, if you will.
And if you want to have your incentives aligned, make sure you like, subscribe, and leave a comment below, ensuring that if you're a quality assurance person, what do you think about this issue? How should quality assurance be done in a professional setting?
Well done.
Well, I worked in QA, so I mean, worked mostly in level 3 support, but yes, quality assurance definitely. They're trying to replace them all with AI, but unfortunately, they cannot. What they can't replace with AI yet is infinite human stupidity. So, and that is the best testing that you can do. But anyways, moving on. You started to put out. I mean, and this is already. I mean, I may be going back. This may become historical data at this point for you. You were doing a lot of testing that I saw between knots and core, but more specifically, you were, if I understood correctly, you were attempting to determine how many actual knots nodes there were on the network, and your findings, if I understood correctly, did not necessarily match up with what the social consensus was. I don't know if you can talk to us a little bit about that experiment and your results, if you remember them, and
Sure,
all that good stuff.
When somewhere around April of this year, the core versus knots drama,
Ramped up.
I want to say kicked off.
No,
yeah,
Say
it's-
wrapped up.
Because it was out there in 23 as well.
It was,
But
yeah.
it wasn't in this. Yeah,
It comes. These things come in waves.
Yeah.
A new
the
wave
wave got
hit
bigger.
in April 2024 or 2025, and we started seeing a lot more people seeming to download knots. And initially, there was a corresponding downtrend in the number of Bitcoin core nodes, given by charts like on BitNodes and on CoinDance. These websites have charts of what versions of the software people are running. Core was going down, knots was going up, and it was interesting.
Yeah.
And then around June of this year, it changed. The knots one kept going up, but the Bitcoin core one stopped going down, and that was suspicious to me. I was like, how? It made sense to me that people would be switching.
Yeah.
It didn't make sense to me that there'd be a bunch of new people using it
New
without.
adoption.
Yeah, usually the same reasons that prompt people to try something other than the default also prompts people who were using the default to stop using it.
Yes.
And it was strange that it wasn't doing that. So I looked into it. I did a little bit of chart analysis, and I thought I identified what's called a Sybil cluster, which is like fake nodes that somebody spun up, ran a script that said, I'm going to spin up 1,000 nodes that are all Bitcoin knots nodes and make it look like there's more knots nodes than there are on the network. So I identified this cluster, gave my chart analysis, and said, I think that's what's going on. After that, it seemed like another wave hit, and it wasn't Sybils again. Like you did see the downtrend in core matching up with the uptrend in knots, and it actually overtook where the Sybil cluster was. Like there's still a Sybil cluster of some. It looks like to me somewhere around 2% of the knots nodes are fake, but it way overshot that because it was like 15, and now it's like 20% of nodes are knots nodes. So
Now here's a question. So you see the data and you interpret it as something's amiss, and the thing that was amiss was essentially the increase in nodes, the increase in the total number of nodes, as opposed because you would see something decrease and something else increase. Now, of course, there's more Bitcoin adoption over time.
there is.
What is the general growth rate of reportable nodes on the network that you would see as normal? Is it 1% per a certain time frame, 2%? What's normal?
Not. It goes up and down depending. It seems to me that it tracks the bull and bear markets. When there's a bull market, more nodes come online.
Okay.
When there's a bear market, they go offline.
Okay.
Unless something strange happens, like nodes are in the news, like with the knots versus core drama.
Yeah.
But a side note, that's been my favorite thing about the core versus knots drama is it has gotten nodes in the news and like Bitcoin media, and people are running nodes as a result. The total number of nodes has gone up by about 3,000 in a way that's not commensurate with its previous trend. So I'm really happy to see that. And as long as this debate results in that number going up, let's keep fanning the flames of the knots versus core drama.
So ACP, one of our viewers said, "Oh, so someone is spinning up EC2 instances and running knots."
I don't know if they were EC2. I saw something that looked like there were people doing that. About 2%. Looked like it was about that. And so I try to mentally subtract 2%. So if the numbers say there are 22% knots nodes, I mentally try to say, looks like it's really about 20%.
So follow-up type of question, similar path, but not the same. So I have this impression that at first you were not necessarily, and I apologize for the framing, because words just, anyways, doesn't matter. It seemed to me that you were a core supporter per se at the beginning, or maybe just more aligned with, with core's direction, and then you started to do this particular experiment with the knots nodes and having more discussions about filters. And then to me, it seems as though your opinion went more to like the middle of the road, sliding towards knots. Am I anywhere?
I'm a fan of both projects.
Right?
I've only started running knots recently.
Okay.
And I still run. Now I'm the last
You run
thing I
both.
was working with was core and not knots.
Yeah.
So it kind of depends on what I'm trying to do. I find that most of the default settings in core work better for the kinds of projects that I typically work on.
Okay.
As an example, I often do stuff with V3 transactions and the restricted output something or other that Gloria Zhao was working on recently. I use that a lot in my projects, and that's like supported by default in Bitcoin Core and not in Bitcoin Knots.
Okay.
So I have often found that for the stuff I do, Bitcoin Core is a better fit. For what most people do with their nodes, I think Knots is a better fit. Most people aren't doing
It's monetary transactions.
stuff. Yes, and
Right?
and less spam in your mempool. So I think the default settings that exist in Bitcoin Knots, I think, are more suitable for the majority of people, and that's one reason why I'm really excited about that project, and am glad that it's getting more attention, more developers, more users. I hope that trend continues.
If Lucky Redfish is watching this, please, you're gonna want to watch the whole thing, because SuperTestNet is definitely giving some pieces of info here that not too many other people are sharing. So, okay, in terms of this core versus not stuff, because I talk to this this user on Twitter all the time, and we always go back and forth, right, about the core versus not stuff. So I guess my follow-up question is, do you think that we're just going to have this coexisting type of, like, I feel like this doesn't go away. I feel like this just doesn't go away. And is that, like, besides the stoking the flames and getting it in the news, is this actually, do you believe that this is quote unquote good for Bitcoin, right? Because supposedly everything is good for Bitcoin.
Well, I don't think everything is good for Bitcoin.
Yeah, I don't either.
Right.
So, agreed.
But is it going to last forever?
Yeah.
No, probably not. I don't
Like, do you think at some point there is going to be a consensus that ends up happening? Like, or do we now go down this path of increased division and more clients, right? Is what I'm trying to figure out.
Happens. I would like that to happen.
Right?
I think
Yeah.
Human nature being what I observe it to be, I think it's more likely this topic will get boring enough, and then it'll stop being an issue and disappear.
But the issue will disappear, but the I guess the communities will still, the segments will still remain. You'll still, hey, not people who want to run knots, they're going to continue to do that, and poor people will continue to do that. You still envision knots being a large chunk of the nodes out there in the network.
I intend to try and make that happen by doing things like in my projects, basing my work on knots and trying to show people, here's how to do this based on knots. Like, do a workshop of, we're going to build a lightning implementation and use knots, stuff like that. I suspect that it's going to die down, and knots will trend down eventually, and Bitcoin Core will just be 95% or so again.
Interesting.
All right, we got some more questions here. BTC Pins is asking, how many fake core nodes may there be?
I don't know. I didn't investigate that.
Okay, well, there you go.
There are probably a lot of fakers. Some people, fake nodes also has a kind of a negative connotation. Some people have reasons for running multiple nodes. I run multiple nodes.
I was going to say,
anyone who does testing on the peer-to-peer level has to run multiple nodes so that they can run their tests.
Or even just testing integrations, like for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You might want to have a node that doesn't have a whole bunch of liquidity on it that you can F with, right?
Yeah.
Just enough to play.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, there's a number of reasons to run multiple nodes, and so I think they show up as fake nodes in the charts, and they are fake nodes in a sense. Like, they're not contributing they're not like economic nodes. But yeah, so how many are there? I don't know, especially when you factor in that developers are spinning up a couple dozen for a piece. I don't know.
That's why I was going to ask you, and it's interesting you mentioned economic nodes. Would you consider people who just spin up a node, right, just to have a node running, and they don't actually use it as a, with Electrum or anything like that to verify their let's say their hardware, their signing device balances, okay, or they're not using it even to validate their own transactions, or even to deploy Lightning channels? Would you consider those nodes to be quote unquote, and I know fake has a negative connotation, but I'm not using it negatively. I'm just saying like a fake node, right? I guess I'm equating a fake node with a non-economic node. There was a question in there. There was. I mean, it was there. I just don't know what it was.
It is not unreasonable in some context to define a real node as a node that is economically relevant and is receiving transactions, and other nodes as fake nodes. However, there are reasons to run a node other than just economic ones. Testing isn't. We've covered that example.
Yeah.
Another one is the Libra Relay people. If you spin up a bunch of Libra Relay nodes in order to get around the mempool filters, in order to make another avenue more accessible, you're not using those in order to receive economic transactions. It's just to make it so that more peers on the network are following this more relaxed set of rules. So there's a purpose to it, other than economics, and in a very real sense, by a certain definition, those are real nodes. Like they're doing something. They have an effect on the network that is non-monetary. So yeah, it depends on the context in which you're defining it.
Yeah, exactly.
But, yeah, they are both real and fake, depending on which context you're talking about.
Hold on, we've got more questions. That's right. I knew that this would definitely spark some questions. Okay, ACP is asking, at a higher level, how did SuperTestNet conclude that a cluster of instances is owned / managed by a single actor?
So my analysis was very basic. I just looked at the charts and I said, this is a suspicious pattern. Looks to me like a bunch of these are fake. After I did that initial analysis, one person responded to me, and which was Matt Hill from Start9 Labs, and he said that most of those numbers are pretty consistent with what we're seeing in sales, because they switched to knots as I think some sort of default in Start9, and they said it looks like you've got about 2,000 nodes coming online that aren't switching from core. We've sold about 1,000 devices, so that accounts for a good 50% of it. Seems consistent. So then I started. Well, I don't know. That still leaves a gap of 1,000, which is, when you're only talking about 20,000, that's not an insignificant number.
No.
2%, 2% still
2%.
unaccounted for.
But I mean, that falls in the range of error, doesn't it?
That's 5%.
Probably,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's always plus or minus
was a
5%.
very basic chart analysis.
Yeah.
Other people have looked at it and have told me that they did a more detailed analysis and said, like, there are things you can tell by the service bits that a node signals, by its version number, and a couple other parameters. You can tell if a bunch of them are all running the exact same parameters and they all seem to appear at around the same time. That's Sybil behavior that wouldn't show up exactly. It doesn't show up in the charts the same way as it shows up on a network analysis. So I did not do that analysis. Other people have done it and said they identified clusters. But all I can speak to is that I saw something in the charts. Other people saw something in this deeper type of analysis. And it seems like there's something going on there.
Okay. No, fair enough. We're getting more questions here. So Mr. Business is saying he'd love to see SuperTestNet have a one-on-one discussion with Seth for Privacy about do you know Seth for Privacy, first of all?
Yes, I've been on his podcast.
Oh, cool.
To have such a discussion as many people have requested.
That's right. So he's saying about exactly how private Bitcoin is compared to Monero.
Yeah. So
you've had that exact discussion with him?
Yes.
Or similar?
Yes.
Cool.
I have had that exact discussion with him. Although he was the host. So I had a debate with Luke Parker on Seth for Privacy's podcast, and he didn't put it into his podcast feed. He just posted it on Twitter. So if you go to his Twitter and search for SuperTestNet Luke Parker, who's a Monero developer, we We did an interview, a debate specifically.
Oh.
So you can find that on Seth for Privacy's podcast, and we go into detail about which one's more private, Monero or Lightning.
Okay, very cool. I'm going to try to dig that up, maybe add it to the show notes. We'll see. But guys, you can go on Seth for Privacy's profile and just search for SuperTestNet, and you'll be able to find that.
So I have a question. So like you had a tweet recently, maybe it's about 2 weeks ago, and you're talking about technical contributors who oppose relaxing the operator filters. What criteria do you use to define a technical person in this context? And how do you respond to critics who argue this list overlooking the broader Bitcoin Core maintainers' perspectives?
So I was having an excellent conversation with Merch and Damus about this. Merch is here at this conference.
We're
We're going to have him
interviewing
tomorrow afternoon.
Great. You should ask him about what he thinks about my list.
Yeah.
If
I will.
fire takes, that's a good one. Yes, never mind. So I put in the list at the very top, the first paragraph is my criteria for how I define someone as counting as a technical contributor or not. And what I looked at was, do they submit code or review code that is A, for Bitcoin itself, like the Bitcoin protocol, B, for something that is on Bitcoin, like a wallet, or C, something that is adjacent to Bitcoin, like Liquid. So that is what I define as a technical person for purposes of that document. There are a lot of people who are technically minded, but they don't contribute or review code. I didn't want that in my list. I wanted people who actually work on this stuff on a regular basis, contribute their time and talent to improving Bitcoin software. And so that's what I defined as a technical person for purposes of that list. That's also why Nick Szabo isn't on there. Because many of the nonce people were like, Nick Szabo, possibly Satoshi, is in favor of opposes this change. So put him on your list. He's very, very technical. You know, he might have implemented Bitcoin. And I'm like, he might have, but he does not work on any Bitcoin projects, as far as I'm aware.
Nope,
So
this is correct. He does not.
Yeah. So I said, until he does, he's not going on that list. So, and then I invited him. Hey, Nick, come over to Knots. We would love your contributions. It's C++. He's a C++ dev.
So how sure are you that you were actually talking to Nick and not Shinobi? I just want to make sure, because
the thought has not occurred to me. So
Shinobi takes place of Nick Szabo's Twitter as well.
So look,
Now we add him
you
back.
guys, like, I am so down the rabbit hole of lore on Twitter that at this point, Shinobi is 7 different accounts. Merch is one of them, by the way.
What you don't know is that.
So how do you know?
I control Shinobi's account. So
That was the other.
That was the other question.
I'm running his account, and he's running Adam's account and Nick's account, and who knows how much of my stuff is filtering through to those.
The whole Bitcoin community is getting psyoped right now, and this is why I don't go on Bitcoin Twitter.
Everyone. So actually, so a week ago, I put out a post saying everyone is Shinobi, but apparently I was deeply wrong. Everyone is SuperTestNet.
Everyone is Shinobi is super.
Shinobi is super.
Right.
I don't even know how to follow that up.
It's too late for this.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Tell you, 'cause I am
No,
you.
let's keep going. No, we're gonna keep going. Okay. So because at the beginning, right? The whole point was, what was your actual talk here? Like, did you do a workshop, or did you do a talk, or did you do both?
It wasn't a workshop.
It wasn't a
I
workshop.
didn't show anyone. I define
No
workshops
workshopping.
where you show people how to do something.
Yeah. So you didn't show people how to do stuff.
I did kind of show it. Okay, it was kind of a
Kind of
workshop. One of the things that I built recently is called Agius, Aggeus.
Oh,
It is a
Agius.
prediction market generator.
It's like Greek.
Is it Bitcoin only?
Yeah.
I like
So
that.
It's a Bitcoin native prediction market generator, and you go to this website. You can set up an oracle. You can set up something called a coordinator, and create a market and say, we're going to have bets on, is the Republican going to win against the Democrat or whatever, and then people can do stuff with that.
I need to back up and ask you
Make
questions.
bets.
I'm sorry. I need to back up and ask you questions. You said
Mhm.
set up an oracle.
Yep.
You created a method of making oracles on Bitcoin?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, we've had those for a long time. You've probably had people on before to talk about DLCs. Those are oracles on Bitcoin.
Oh, okay. I have. I had Ben Carman, Ben Carman a
he's
few
done
times,
a
and
lot
he
of
is
work
like
in
him and Nadav Cohen and stuff like that. A few of these guys, they were the ones that really worked on the
Mhm.
DLC stuff. I did not realize that that those would be considered oracles. So you're leveraging DLCs for this?
Well, no.
No?
I mean,
Okay.
I think it should. So a lot
Sorry.
of my software is prototype software,
Yeah.
proof of concept level, not meant to be used. That is the situation with this. You're not supposed to use it. I only did it on testnet.
SuperTestNet.
Yeah, I did
Yeah.
use my testnet to test it. So that was Super's testnet was in use.
I think
And-
you're slightly answering BTC's recent question. I think the answer is never ends.
Wait, what did he say?
When will
SuperTestNet
SuperTestNet upgrade himself to Super Mainnet?
Oh, that's
no,
amazing.
I think he's enjoying
That's
where
Oh
he
my
is.
My brother
God.
Super Mainnet is very interested in doing stuff on Mainnet. I always don't use any of that stuff. Just use testnet. Testnet's great. The
Oh,
coins are free.
somebody called you Super Shinobi.
Um,
This is
so
amazing.
yeah, so I made an oracle that I didn't use the DLC spec because I find it difficult to implement. So I used an older oracle specification called a hashlock oracle,
Okay.
and that it's easier to implement. It's also easier to show people what the code is doing because there's no multi-party computation, there's no key tweaking, and it's simpler than DLCs.
Mm.
But it's less efficient on chain. You have to reveal a pre-image and a hash when you're settling these contracts, and it's more data. So if in a real world implementation, an oracle should be a DLC oracle, but for a demo or proof of concept, I think the simpler version works great.
Sorry, I'm totally stuck on the whole DLC thing, are oracles. Because I've always, it's gonna sound terrible, I've always equated oracles with shitcoins, right? Because of Chainlink.
They
So for
are
me in my head,
certainly-
I'm just like, oh, oracles don't exist on Bitcoin. And they don't even
We-
actually exist in shitcoins because in my mind, there's a central point of failure
Yeah.
for that.
No,
So-
there is for sure.
Okay.
And I did not solve. There's something in cryptocurrency research called the oracle problem,
Yes.
which is what if the blockchain does not know about elections or sports games or stuff.
So
like
people,
real
that.
world
it has to be
events.
fed data,
It has to be fed data,
And who
and if
owns
the
that?
oracle, that's the feeder of the data,
the feeder of the
uh,
data.
if he gives it bad data, you'll get bad results out of your smart contract.
Do you,
So I do not solve that problem at all. Just the oracle can lie, and then you lose money.
is there anybody actually working on a way to properly solve that issue? Because I genuinely believe that is like one of these
I don't know if there's a proper way
it's
to
a
solve it.
unicorn. I feel like it's a unicorn, right? If we can
Yes.
discover this unicorn, then like everything changes in
Maybe.
Bitcoin. I don't know.
Are there people working on it? There definitely are in the altcoin land.
Oh yeah, no, I don't care
It's
about
like
that.
real estate ownership on
There are all
crypto.
there
Like
are
it's-
a lot of schemes that involve having many oracles, and you have them basically vote on whether some event occurred or not.
Yeah.
And you can also have like the oracles put up a certain amount of stake, and then users vote on whether to delete the stake if they think they've done a bad job. And if enough users vote to delete their stake, then it's gone. I don't think any of that is wise.
Yeah.
So I didn't. I
it's
just
still
there's an oracle
democracy
problem. I
and
don't know how to
voting.
solve it.
Yeah.
That's that is a trust assumption of the thing I built.
Okay.
Another thing the oracle
Very
can do
interesting.
is he can participate in the market. So let's say it's Republican versus Democrat, and the Republican is winning. The oracle can put a whole bunch of money on Democrat, and then report the Democrat won, even if the Republican won, and then he gets all that money from winning the betting on the underdog. So like the oracles can do really nasty things in these markets, and I don't know how to solve that. So I don't. So I
Yeah.
didn't. I ignored it.
I don't blame you.
Except I put a notice that this is an unsolved problem, or at least I don't know how to solve it. There has been some talk about like the guys at what's his name, Tony Klausing of Stable Channels.
Okay.
He has an oracle provide data to his Stable Channels project, but he's got an interesting approach where he has each user pick the set of price oracles that they want. So he needs the price of Bitcoin for his Stable Channels thing to work, but he has each user select a set of price oracles, and user A doesn't know what oracles user B picked.
Yes.
And that's an interesting approach because then if you want to corrupt them, you have to like guess which ones he used and corrupt those ones, and maybe corrupt all price oracles in order to make sure you get them, which is probably difficult. So that's an interesting approach.
Wow. That is an interesting approach.
Yeah. So yeah,
That's
there
a
are
little
people
bit more
working on
fault
it.
tolerant. That
Isn't
yeah.
that cool?
Yeah. I actually
Should like this video. Leave a comment if you want to see Tony Klausing on Pleb Underground discussing his cable channel project.
Oh God. Oh my God. Okay.
Also, remember to subscribe and hit the notification bell if you want to be notified when that video comes out.
Hello.
How do you know so much about what is
got a
needed on
YouTube
YouTube? You're
channel.
good, man. You're good. You're better than I am. I don't ask for any of these things.
Very
I'm
well done.
just doing this, you know. Like I don't even think of that. Yeah,
Well,
do what
my
SuperTestNet
YouTube
says.
channel has like 700 people on it. Yours has 10,000 or something. So
Not even. We're like 3K
Keep
and,
thinking
and yeah. I want you to keep thinking that because definitely that puffs me up. But
consider asking people to subscribe more often.
That's
you know
right.
what? It's
I'll try to
interestingly
remember
enough, I'm just trying to get to the 3,000 level. It seems like the YouTube algorithm hates my guts, but I know that that's not real. I'm just personalizing. Personalizing.
Also, the knots versus core debate does seem to have a little bit of emotional tug on the audience, and
people get mad.
And I wanted to talk about that just a little bit before you get to your next question.
Yes.
You know, I would say I think you just alluded to that. This is kind of a good thing for Bitcoin in general. Again, people are buying nodes. I'm sure Matt Hill is happy. He's selling Start9 servers. But other people have seen it to be a distraction. And namely, I mean, we just interviewed Shinobi. Shinobi says that this knots versus core, it's a big nothing burger. We're arguing over nuance, over things that you really can't change about the base layer, the base layer of what Bitcoin is. And that the engineering minds that could be solving privacy concerns, fighting against censorship developing censorship resistance. They're talking about op return and JPEGs. But do you think that this is a distraction and that basically we can use that energy towards more altruistic or greater missions for Bitcoin, or is this exactly where we need to be?
No. So your first question.
Simple answer.
Your first question. One of the questions in there was, are we wasting time? And I don't think we are.
Right.
Okay.
I think this debate matters, and particularly, I think that the use of Bitcoin for non-Bitcoin purposes is bad for Bitcoin, and long term could have really serious negative ramifications. So I want some developer focus on that problem, and I'm happy to be one of the people doing that, and the other nonce people as well. I don't want all of it to be on there. I remember reading a children's book when I was a kid, which was like, firemen are good, right? What if everyone was a fireman? And
Yeah.
it's like, well, then we wouldn't have other things that are needed, like grocers and things. So I don't want that situation, but I don't like this idea that the thing that I'm interested in, or speaking as if I'm a shinobi here,
Sure.
the privacy and whatever the other one was. The things that
Shinobi
he
just walked by.
Yeah.
The things that I'm interested in, privacy and whatever the other thing was, are so important that no one should focus on spam. No, I don't agree with that. Maybe more should be focused on privacy than focused on spam. But I would like some to be focused on the spam issue, and I'm happy that there are some.
Well said.
Yeah, very well said. Okay, we're going to go down a different path here. So you've been talking a lot recently about subsat, we'll say subsat filters and wallet adoption. What's the biggest barrier to more wallets supporting fees below 1 sat per VByte?
More wallet developers. Let's get more wallet developers opening pull requests in more wallets and saying, hey, let's increment or decrement the requisite value for doing subsat transactions. Is that decrement?
Yep,
I feel like it's
decrement.
decrement.
It is decrement.
Or at least support floating points. A lot of them just support integers. And so if you say maybe they're not supporting it because 1 is the lowest integer you can go to in
Please
an integer system.
It's hard to calibrate that, man.
And you thought we went through last time.
again.
And it trolled us.
Yes, yes, but it was actually SuperTestNet as Shinobi trolling us. So we're not really sure what just happened there. Okay, how do we get more? How do we get more people? I guess it's just gonna be a general question, but how do we get more people, in your eyes, excited or wanting to be wallet developers or working on these types of solutions? Because I think it was Shinobi's point in our previous conversation, right? Like it seems as though that there's a bit of a lack of not as many developers that are working on Bitcoin that could be, right? It almost seems like people shy away from it. What are your thoughts on that? So there was like 2 questions in there. It's like 2.5.
There are not enough people interested in Bitcoin, and among the subset of people who are interested in Bitcoin, not enough of them are developers.
Mhm.
I think that's accurate. Yes.
What do you do? You try to be attractive. That's the wrong way to put it. Let me rephrase that. you try to attract people to Bitcoin, and then specifically to the domain where cryptographic research and wallet development and front end stuff and all that stuff is needed. Yeah.
What can we do? What can we do to get people more like into wanting to develop on Bitcoin? Like, is it a matter of having easier tools to use? Is it a matter of like there's not like easy user experiences to get people involved?
Maybe
You know, like
more
I'm trying to say, like, is the
conferences.
barrier to entry too high? I guess that's what I'm trying to say in a simple way.
I don't know. I don't really know. I was having a conversation with a gentleman recently about the nerdiness of the Bitcoin culture. And I guess in this particular domain, we kind of want the nerdiness.
Yeah.
That's where developers are. But there's a turnoff for people when, if I go to someone and I try to onboard them to PayPal, I show them the PayPal wallet. I say, here, you hit receive, you hit send, and here's your balance, and off you go. When I try to onboard somebody to Bitcoin, I'm like, here's a Bitcoin wallet. Actually, let me show you 5 different Bitcoin wallets, because this one's self-custodial, this one's non-custodial, this one connects to a full node, so you have to run that. Let me tell you about that. Do you know what the compact block filters are? And it's a real turnoff for most people. Like the nerdiness of the things that I'm really interested in are very nerdy things. And when I try to attract people to Bitcoin, most of them are not attracted to the things that I'm attracted to.
Yeah.
By it.
The iPhoneification, if you will.
Yeah, this is what people want.
Of the competing solutions, and say, I like that solution so much that I want to be a part of that. But Bitcoin doesn't have its iPhone moment, if it ever will, in the near term. And so therefore it's like, that looks like a monstrosity. It's ugly.
I think a similar thing happens in the operating system world.
Nerds
love Linux. Every nerd loves Linux. And they have a really hard time recommending it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like,
I would never
recommend
tell
7
an end
different
user to
flavors
use
of
Linux.
Yeah,
absolutely. I have never.
It's interesting that it's strange.
But I
and
would.
It's Bitcoin like shares a very similar thing about that with that Linux has. We really can't decide on what to use, and many of us use like 7 different things.
I'm just thinking about it, and I can tell you, for me, my main barrier to entry was because I really focused on Lightning because I felt that was more at my level. But definitely when I looked at Bitcoin initially, it just seemed way too complex for me to contribute in any type of value. So I could say that was my turnoff point.
Yeah, we're much more comfortable saying you should use Bitcoin. Just like Linux people are much more comfortable saying you should use Linux, but very uncomfortable saying which wallet you should use or which Linux operating system you should use.
Okay, we're getting people that agree with you here. BTC Pin says we need to make Bitcoin sexier. And ACP says, and ACP is just laughing at the nerdiness of Bitcoin culture. But yeah, I mean, without that nerdiness, as ACP knows, we wouldn't be where we are, right? Like it's,
I mean,
it's
also where the devs almost. I don't know of a dev who's not a nerd. So
I mean, look, I still remember when I first got into the space, right? One of my favorite quotes was, "The nerds were right." Okay, and it's true, right? Love it or hate it, that's what it was.
And remember, I mean, when you think about the development on Bitcoin, I mean, the commoner will say, well, what's the difference between Doge and Bitcoin? And you'll say, go look at their GitHub, and it's been dead for probably 4 years. There's no what do you call them?
Contributors,
maintainers. There's no updates. It's Bitcoin Core, Bitcoin Knots. The development of Bitcoin is alive. These competing brands that are cool, fun, the great marketing. It's all a shell. When you pull back the curtain, there's nothing there. And so it's like this foundation of Bitcoin is necessary for it to stay truly vibrant and truly alive.
You reminded me of something I promised Merch I would do. Merch has pointed out, or he has commented on a list of Knots contributors that I made. I made a list of 10 Knots contributors, and he said people in his feed quote this at him all the time and say, Knots has something like to the effect of Knots has enough developers, or Knots has so many developers. Look at this list of 10 people SuperTestNet found. Knots does not have a sufficient number of developers. It is very insufficient number of developers. I made that list to combat the false notion that it has one developer,
which is not
widely gone
true.
around. It is not true. It has about 10. That is not enough. That is very laughable. So it is also laughable to say it only has one, but it is equally laughable to say 10 is enough for a project with as many users and as much value stored in it as Bitcoin has.
And it's pretty remarkable with only 10 the work they've been able to do and to bring that much support to that effort. So you're saying only 10. I mean, I'm in shock. I'm like, wow.
It's growing, partly because of that list. I met someone at this conference said he is going to start contributing to Knots. That's the thing. I missed a couple people when I made the list. It's growing. It was around 10, it seemed to be around 10 when I made the list. It was really around 12. Now it's growing and more than that.
I appreciate the intellectual honesty. I think that a lot of that, for whatever reason, has been lost in this conversation. And we just end up seeing a lot of tribalism, right? And I appreciate that. But we are going to change. We're going to switch gears here. We're going to. I mean, still really talking about op return. But so look, hypothetically, if Bitcoin Core were to soft fork away op return entirely, okay, how would that impact designs for unilateral exits? Let's say in protocols like Arc or Lightning.
Somebody has been reading my tweets with my interactions with Pierre Rochard.
Yep.
Pierre Rochard has suggested recently getting rid of op return entirely, and I said I'm okay with getting rid of it almost entirely. But there's one thing that op return is really good for, other than spamming the blockchain, and that is that you can create a really, really small output value with it. You can create an output value that is only 1 byte. Just op return and nothing after it, no payload. And that is very useful when you're design, or at least I use it in a lot of my designs for unilateral exits from layer 2 systems. Because when you're crafting a unilateral exit, usually there's fees that you have to pay. There's like a series of transactions and you have to pay fees for them. I always want to, some designs say that the user's wallet should have a reserve of money so that if they have to do a unilateral exit, it'll have enough money to pay for those fees. Lightning Labs does this with their implementation of Lightning. You keep a fee reserve. I think it is wiser to not have a fee reserve in the wallet and instead ask the user to deposit something if they have to do a unilateral exit.
So at the end, right?
Yeah,
like pay to play.
It's time to unilaterally exit. It's time to
or pay for play.
Whatever.
Yeah.
You don't have any reserves, so you're going to have to make a deposit. In order to know the exact value of the deposit you need, what I do is I take the smallest set of transactions I can make in order to do a unilateral exit and multiply it by the current fee rate. I say that's the amount you need to deposit. You can get a smaller value if you have a really small output at the end of only 1 byte as the last transaction. Every transaction has to have an output. But you're really just putting this money in there just to pay for fees. You don't need an output there. So if you just make a single byte output, which is op return, then you get the smallest possible value and the cheapest and the best value for your user. Or at least that's what I think. It's
almost like a placeholder.
That's what I want to do. So I said, I'm fine with getting rid of op return that have payloads, but I want to keep the no payload op return because it's really useful for that specific purpose. There you go. Now that's an answer to that question.
Well, that's that. Well, we solved everything, guys. Bitcoin's dead. Long live Bitcoin. SuperTestNet. No. Okay. This is my last question. What do we have to look forward to? I know you came up with 25 ideas just on your way over to do this particular conversation. By the time we finish this conversation and you walk over there, what can we expect from SuperTestNet in the next 20 minutes? No, I'm kidding. In the next little while. What are you looking at?
While I was giving my presentation about the prediction market, somebody pointed out that it would be really cool if the coordinator was split up into a basically a crowdfunded coordinator. And so currently the coordinator takes a set of fees for providing his activity, but he's also if he stops doing it, if he gets shut down or something, no one loses any money, but the market stops working. They can't make trades anymore. And so someone said, what if you split him up? What if you made him, 100 people, and anyone who wants to can contribute a public key to this thing, and you get a share of the fees for running the coordinator? I was like, that's a cool idea.
That is a cool idea.
Decentralization.
So I don't know if I'd call it that, but it's cool. So I want to maybe that'll be the next thing I do is
I think you should.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Or thank him. Thank whoever.
Yeah,
said it.
thank
Thank you.
thank them, but
Random citizen. I
Yeah.
forget who he was.
we're just gonna thank each other, you know. No, but yeah, that's. Do you have any other questions for Super Testnet?
No, you've
All right,
been a
Super
pleasure,
Testnet's
man.
about to become Super Mainnet at around midnight. Most of us turn into pumpkins. He turns into a mainnet. That's just the way it works. Dude, it's super awesome to have you on the show. Not just Super Testnet, but super awesome Testnet.
Not a problem. Thank you for listening to another episode of Pleb Underground. Make sure you like, subscribe, and leave a comment under the video, and hit that notification bell so you get the next video in the series.
Brilliant
my
brain
gosh.
and brilliant voice.
Yeah. Where can people? Okay, so I mean, obviously, I want you to shill your stuff. Where can people find you?
Is my website. You can go to supertestnet.org. All of my socials are there. All of my projects are there. You can have a blast. You can give me money. That's nice.
You can give me money, that's
So
nice.
poor dev. Not a core dev. I'm a poor dev.
Trademarked.
But yeah, you
He's
can go
a
to
poor
supertestnet.org. I'm also supertestnet, one word on Twitter. I'm also supertestnet, one word on Telegram. I'm supertestnet, 2 words on Noster. So you can find me on there. And on YouTube, I am High Level Bitcoin. That is my YouTube. So check me
Sweet.
out on all those platforms.
Great stuff.
Oh my gosh, that's fantastic. All right, guys, that is going to do it for us today, live from Tabconf 2025 with Super Testnet. Woo! Oh my God.
It's too late for that.
Yeah. Wow. He's got way more energy than we do. All right, guys, it's going to do it for us. We'll catch you tomorrow. Probably, I don't know what time we're going to start. Maybe 9, 10 a.m. We're going to dive into the daily news before we start bringing on the next guest. Dude, again, thank you so much for joining us. This was really cool. Sweet. All right, take it easy.